Celtic tribe. But this was not any old barbarian. Britomarius had already notched up 5 victories in the arena, to the surprise of seasoned observers. Barbarians without any proper schooling in the way of the sword usually met a grisly demise on their debut, and Britomarius's run of wins had unsettled the veterans at the imperial school. Capito dismissed such concerns and reassured himself that the men Britomarius had faced in previous bouts were lesser warriors than he. Capito was a legend of the arena, a bringer of death and winner of glory. He flexed his neck muscles as he swore to teach Britomarius a lesson. His confidence was further boosted by the fact that he wore the full complement of equipment, including leg greaves, arm manicures, and a plate cuirass, as well as a long red cloak draped over his back. The armour was to guarantee victory. With the emperor in attendance, the idea of a Roman, even a gladiator dressed as a Roman, losing to a barbarian was too much to stomach. But the armour had its drawbacks. With the heavily decorated helmet over his head, the complete panoply caused Capito to break out in a suffocating sweat. The official handed him a short sword and a rectangular legionary shield. Capito gripped the sword in his right hand and took the shield with his left. He focused on the dark mouth of the passageway facing him from the opposite side of the arena floor and saw a figure slowly emerge from the shadows, head glancing left and right, as if bemused by his surroundings. A barbarian who'd notched up a few fortuitous wins, Capito told himself, armed with a blunted weapon. The gladiator vowed to put Britomarius in his place. Capito stepped out into the arena and marched towards the centre, where the umpire stood tapping his wooden stick against the side of his right leg. The sun glared down and rendered the sand blisteringly hot under his bare feet. He glanced up at the crowd lining the galleries. Some were slaking their thirst from small wine jars, while others fanned themselves. A large group of legionaries, packed into one corner of the gallery, were in boisterous mood. There were women, too, Capito thought with a lustful smile. He felt a pang of pride that so many people had come to see him, the great Capito. The metallic stench of blood choked the air as Capito felt the full force of the heat rising from the ground. Right at the top of the arena, above the highest gallery, dozens of sailors manipulated vast awnings in an attempt to provide shade to the crowd. But the sun had shifted position and foiled their efforts. The freedmen in the upper galleries were in shade, while the dignitaries below had to suffer the heat. Trumpets blasted. Capito tightened his grip on the sword. The crowd simultaneously craned their necks at the passageway opposite him. The gladiator shut out the noise of the arena and focused solely on the barbarian pacing heavily towards him. Capito suppressed a smile. Britomarius looked almost too big for his own good. His legs were wide as tree trunks at the thigh, and his arm and shoulder muscles were buried under a layer of fat. He tramped ponderously into the centre of the arena, as if every step required great exertion. Capito couldn't quite bring himself to believe that Britomarius had won 5 fights. His opponents must have been even worse than he had first imagined. The barbarian wore a pair of brightly coloured trousers and a sleeveless woolen tunic fastened at the waist with a belt. He had no armour. No leg greaves or manicures or helmet. His weapons consisted of a leather-covered wooden shield with a metal boss and a spear with a blunted tip. The umpire motioned with his stick for the gladiators to stop, face to face. The men stood 2 sword lengths apart. "All right, lads," the umpire said. "I want a fair and clean fight. Now remember, this is a fight to the death. There will be no mercy, so don't waste your time begging the emperor. Accept your fate with honour. Understood?" Capito nodded. Britomarius showed no reaction. He probably didn't even speak Latin, thought the imperial gladiator with a sneer. The umpire looked to the editor in the podium, seated not far from the emperor himself. The editor gave the sign.